The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains, casting delicate patterns on the kitchen table. I stood there, staring at the untouched cup of coffee, its steam curling upward like the fleeting moments of excitement that had long evaporated from my life. The routine was suffocating, a cycle of mundane tasks that left no room for spontaneity or joy. I often wondered how it had come to this, how years of marriage could lead to such a sense of invisibility. My husband, Tom, was a good man. He worked hard and provided for us, but his affection had dwindled over the years. Our conversations revolved around bills and household chores, leaving little space for intimacy or connection. I felt like a ghost in my own home, drifting from one chore to another without purpose or passion. St. Augustine was vibrant during this time of year, with its cobblestone streets alive with festivals and tourists. Yet here I was, trapped in a life that felt more like a series of obligations than a partnership. The historic charm of the city served as a backdrop to my discontent, reminding me of all the things I once cherished, the laughter shared over candlelit dinners and the spontaneous weekend trips we used to take. As I washed the dishes, my thoughts wandered to my husband's nephew, Jake. He was in his late 20s and had recently moved back to St. Augustine after finishing college. His youthful energy was palpable. He seemed to embody everything I felt I had lost: hope, ambition, and an insatiable curiosity about life. Our paths crossed unexpectedly at an antique shop one Saturday afternoon while Tom was busy with work. The shop was filled with relics from another time, tarnished silverware and faded photographs that whispered stories of lives once lived. As I perused the aisles, I heard Jake's voice behind me. "Isn't this place amazing?" he said, holding up an ornate clock that had seen better days. I turned around and smiled awkwardly. It has its charm. He approached me with an enthusiasm that felt refreshing amidst my daily monotony. We talked about our favorite finds, old books and vintage jewelry, and for the first time in years, I felt a spark ignite within me. Jake's laughter echoed through the small space as we exchanged stories about our lives. He shared tales from college while I recounted memories from my youth. I found myself drawn to him in ways I hadn't anticipated. There was something intoxicating about his presence, the way he listened intently as if every word mattered, and it made me feel seen again. It blurred the lines between family ties and something more profound. As we stood near a dusty window display filled with forgotten treasures, Jake leaned closer, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "You know," he said softly, "you have this amazing energy about you." My heart raced at his words. They were both flattering and dangerous. A part of me wanted to step back, to remind myself of my commitments, but another part craved this attention that had eluded me for so long. "Thank you," I replied cautiously. We parted ways that day, but not before exchanging numbers under the guise of discussing family gatherings. As I walked home through St. Augustine's bustling streets adorned with colorful banners for upcoming festivities, excitement coursed through me like electricity. That evening at dinner, Tom spoke animatedly about work while I nodded along absent-mindedly. My mind drifted back to Jake, the way he made me laugh and how effortlessly he engaged me in conversation. Each moment spent with him felt like a breath of fresh air amid my stagnant existence. As days turned into weeks, our texts became more frequent, innocent at first but quickly evolving into exchanges filled with playful banter and shared interests in antiques and history. With each message received from him, my heart fluttered. It was as if Jake had awakened something dormant within me, a yearning for connection that hadn't been fulfilled in years. Yet guilt gnawed at me incessantly. Every stolen moment spent texting him came wrapped in layers of shame for betraying Tom's trust, even if it was merely emotional at this stage. Still drawn by curiosity and attraction toward Jake's vivacious spirit, I found myself teetering on the edge of commitment and infidelity. One afternoon while browsing through vintage postcards at our favorite shop again, this time feeling bolder, I spotted Jake across the room examining an old globe covered in dust motes dancing in sunlight filtering through stained glass windows. He looked up when he noticed me enter, his face lit up with genuine delight as he waved me over. "Look what I found," he exclaimed excitedly as he gestured toward the globe. I approached him hesitantly yet intrigued by his enthusiasm. It reminded me how much joy could be found in simple pleasures when shared with someone who truly appreciated them too. "Wow," I said, genuinely impressed by its intricate details as we examined it together closely, our hands brushing briefly against each other's skin, sending electric jolts coursing through us both, making it hard not to smile wider than before, even amidst lingering feelings of guilt surrounding our interactions thus far. Suddenly feeling bold enough despite lingering doubts swirling within my mind, I leaned closer towards him, whispering softly, "I've never been happier than being here right now." Jake looked straight into my eyes searchingly before leaning even closer until our lips almost touched. A moment suspended in time where everything else faded away, leaving only us standing there, caught between desire and duty, hanging heavily overhead like storm clouds threatening rain, yet somehow exhilarating nonetheless. But just then, I remembered Tom waiting at home, unaware, trapped within routines, while unaware how dangerously close I'd come, crossing lines I'd sworn never would blur before. I stood there, a breath away from Jake, the weight of my choices pressing down on me. The antique shop around us buzzed with the chatter of customers and the soft tinkling of wind chimes, but all I could hear was the thudding of my heart. His youthful energy was intoxicating, a stark contrast to the monotony that had seeped into my life like a slow poison. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and steady, pulling me back to the moment. I nodded, though uncertainty swirled within me. How had I let it get this far? A simple visit to an antique shop had spiraled into something much more complicated. Jake's presence ignited something deep inside me, a longing I hadn't acknowledged in years. "I just didn't expect to see you here again," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. He smiled, that easy grin that made my stomach flutter. "I come here often. There's something about old things that makes you feel alive, don't you think?" "Alive," I echoed, feeling the irony wash over me. My life felt stagnant, filled with chores and obligations that left no room for excitement or passion. As we wandered through the aisles filled with dusty trinkets and faded photographs, I felt a pull toward him that was hard to resist. We shared stories about our favorite finds, his enthusiasm infectious as he spoke about a vintage record player he hoped to restore one day. "I can't believe how much history is in these items," he said, holding up a delicate porcelain figurine. "They each have their own story." I couldn't help but think about my own story, the years spent building a life with Tom and how it had become so predictable. In this moment with Jake, I felt seen in a way I hadn't in ages. Suddenly, he turned to me with an intensity that caught me off guard. "What's your story?" The question hung between us like a fragile thread. Did he really want to know? Did I even know how to answer? "I've been married for over 20 years, I replied slowly, feeling vulnerable under his gaze. "Sometimes it feels like I've lost myself along the way." Jake stepped closer, his expression softening as if he understood more than he let on. "You deserve to find yourself again." His words resonated within me, a reminder of everything I craved but couldn't articulate. The guilt washed over me again like cold water. Tom was at home planning our dinner while I stood here flirting with danger. But then Jake reached out and brushed his fingers against mine, a light touch that sent sparks through my skin. It felt forbidden yet thrilling at the same time. We kissed, his lips brushed against mine softly before retreating just enough for clarity amidst confusion. The world around us faded away once more. Nothing mattered except for this fleeting moment suspended in time where desire battled against duty and guilt surged through my veins like fire. "What are we doing?" My voice trembled as reality crashed back in. "I don't know," Jake admitted honestly, taking a step back as if assessing the weight of what had just happened between us. The thrill of our kiss lingered in the air like an unspoken promise, one that threatened everything I'd built with Tom over the years. I should go, I said abruptly, turning away from him but not before catching one last glimpse of his hopeful expression, a stark reminder of everything missing from my life. With each step toward the exit, doubt crept back and alongside guilt, what would happen when Tom returned home? Would this moment haunt me or set me free? The sun hung low in the sky as I walked through St. Augustine's cobblestone streets towards home, the vibrant colors of shops and cafes contrasting sharply against my inner turmoil. Tom was still at work when I arrived home. Silence enveloped me like an unwelcome blanket as I dropped my purse by the door and moved toward the kitchen where dinner awaited preparation. My hands moved automatically through familiar routines, chopping vegetables for our favorite stir-fry while thoughts raced through my mind like wildfire. What if Jake called? What if we met again? As evening approached, Tom entered with an armful of flowers, bright blooms bursting forth from their wrapping paper like rays of sunshine illuminating shadows lurking within me. Surprise, he exclaimed cheerfully as he placed them on the table beside our dinner setup adorned with candles flickering gently against polished plates awaiting their meal. Wow! They're beautiful. My smile felt strained even as joy flickered briefly within me, a reminder of simpler times shared before life became predictable. Tom wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me close for an embrace filled with warmth yet somehow lacking intimacy, an echo of what once was overshadowed by everything else left unspoken between us now. Let's eat. He gestured toward our meal proudly prepared earlier that day while obliviously unaware how torn apart inside I truly felt at this very moment, the juxtaposition between love and longing leaving scars beneath layers hidden deep within myself. Dinner passed uneventfully, laughter came easily but never reached beyond surface-level conversations. The kind exchanged between two people drifting apart yet desperately trying to hold on to something tangible amidst uncertainty looming overhead like storm clouds threatening rain once again. Afterward came cleanup. Washing dishes became another routine task devoid of passion where silence reigned supreme until finally retreating upstairs together felt almost foreign despite familiarity lingering beneath surface interactions shared each night before sleep claimed us both once more. Lying awake next to Tom hours later brought little comfort, exhaustion weighed heavily yet thoughts remained restless, a constant replaying loop reminding me how close I'd come crossing lines never meant for blurring before. What would tomorrow bring? Would it be different or just another day lost within cycles repeating endlessly without change? As sleep finally took hold amid swirling doubts surrounding choices made thus far, a single thought echoed louder than others. Was it worth risking everything for fleeting moments filled only by desire? And suddenly everything shifted beneath unseen currents threatening calm waters ahead. The days slipped by, each one blurring into the next, yet I found myself counting moments with an anxious heart. The thrill of my secret meetings with my husband's nephew became a lifeline against the monotony of my life. We met at the antique shop regularly, exchanging stories and laughter, each encounter igniting a spark I had long thought extinguished. In those quiet hours, surrounded by relics of the past, we forged an emotional bond that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Our conversations ranged from trivial to deeply personal. He shared tales of his travels, while I recounted memories of my youth, an era filled with dreams and aspirations. Each shared story felt like peeling back layers of our lives, exposing vulnerabilities we seldom showed to others. Yet beneath this burgeoning connection lay a constant undercurrent of guilt. My marriage was a fragile facade, and every moment I spent with him chipped away at its foundation. I often found myself staring into space during mundane chores at home, wondering if my husband sensed the shift in me. The thought made me uneasy. I didn't want to hurt him, but the attention I craved was now fulfilled in unexpected ways. One afternoon, as we wandered through the antique shop, I spotted a vintage brooch that caught my eye, a delicate piece adorned with emeralds. It reminded me of a time when life felt vibrant and full of possibilities. You should get it, he suggested, his voice light yet earnest. It suits you. I hesitated but ultimately decided against it. I don't need any more distractions, I replied lightly, though inside I longed for something tangible to hold on to, a symbol of this newfound connection. As we left the shop that day, he reached for my hand briefly before releasing it as if afraid to overstep boundaries. The simple touch sent shivers down my spine. It was a reminder of how close we were yet how far apart our lives truly remained. Our outings continued in secrecy, stolen moments filled with laughter and whispered confessions. But one evening changed everything when we decided to explore St. Augustine's historic streets together during one of its vibrant festivals. The air was thick with excitement as music floated through the night sky and colorful lights danced around us. Amidst the crowd, an old friend from my past unexpectedly spotted me. Her eyes widened in recognition as she approached us with familiarity etched on her face. Panic surged through me. What would she think? Would she suspect anything? "Isn't this place beautiful?" she exclaimed cheerfully, oblivious to the turmoil brewing within me. "Yes," I managed to reply while forcing a smile that felt foreign on my lips. Her gaze shifted from me to him as she continued chatting about her life since we last met, her marriage and children occupying most of her stories. Meanwhile, all I could think about was how desperately I wanted to escape this moment before she pieced together our connection. When she finally walked away after exchanging pleasantries and promises to catch up soon, relief washed over me but quickly morphed into dread. What if she told someone? What if word got back to my husband? "Are you okay?" he asked gently as we resumed walking through the festival's stalls filled with handmade crafts and local delicacies. "I will be," I replied too quickly, forcing myself to focus on him instead of spiraling into anxiety. He leaned closer then and whispered conspiratorially about a nearby food stand selling gourmet treats that piqued his interest. His enthusiasm was contagious. Laughter bubbled up within me despite lingering fears about being recognized again. As we stood in line for snacks later that evening, his playful banter easing tension, I felt a rush of longing wash over me again like waves crashing onto shore. The moment hung in the air between us until it became impossible not to acknowledge it any longer. Our lips met, igniting an electric charge that surged through both our bodies as if sealing an unspoken agreement between us, a commitment to continue navigating these treacherous waters together despite looming risks ahead. But reality crashed back in swiftly when thoughts turned toward home, the dinner waiting for me there prepared by my husband who remained blissfully unaware of everything happening behind closed doors. Returning home that night felt like crossing an invisible line drawn in sand. Each step reminded me how precariously balanced my life had become between two worlds, one filled with anticipation and excitement while another lingered quietly beneath shadows cast by routine obligations. My husband greeted me warmly at the door as if nothing had changed. His smile offered comfort tinged with guilt swirling within me like storm clouds gathering overhead before breaking free into rainstorms threatening chaos outside. "Dinner is almost ready," he said cheerfully while setting down a bottle of wine on our dining table adorned with candles flickering softly in dim light, his attempt at romance evident despite knowing how distant I had grown lately. "Thank you," I murmured absent-mindedly while trying not to let thoughts drift back toward what awaited beyond these walls, the thrill lingering just out of reach like waves receding from shore only to return stronger than before once more. Dinner unfolded uneventfully yet felt heavy under unspoken truths hovering above us like specters haunting every smile exchanged over plates piled high with food prepared lovingly just for me. A stark contrast against feelings swirling inside where desire clashed violently against duty demanding attention instead. As night deepened outside our window framed by stars twinkling brightly overhead, each one representing dreams lost along way, I pondered what lay ahead with entangled web woven tightly around hearts yearning for connection amidst chaos created by choices made thus far leading nowhere good ultimately. finally retreating into bed later that night alone after dinner concluded left room feeling colder than usual despite warmth radiating through blankets wrapped snugly around body seeking solace against chill creeping deeper still throughout mind racing endlessly. Trying process everything unfolding around heart beating loudly echoing silent cries begging answers never coming forth easily without consequences looming large ahead. There would be no turning back now. Decisions awaited just beyond horizon beckoning silently towards unknown futures filled uncertainty yet undeniable pull drawing closer still. The morning light poured through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the room. I lay there, tangled in sheets, my heart heavy with the weight of choices made and those yet to come. The memories of last night flooded my mind, how we spent the night together, lost in a world that felt both thrilling and terrifying. My thoughts drifted to my husband, who was busy planning a romantic dinner for us tonight, blissfully unaware of the turmoil brewing within me. I turned onto my back, staring at the ceiling as if it held answers. The faint sound of birds chirping outside reminded me of life continuing its mundane rhythm. Yet here I was, caught between two worlds, one of comfort and familiarity and another filled with excitement but fraught with danger. The thrill of my affair had become intoxicating, but guilt followed closely behind like a shadow. As I prepared for the day, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. My reflection showed signs of weariness, lines etched deeper around my eyes than I remembered. What had happened to the woman who once felt vibrant and alive? The housewife roles consumed me, leaving little room for passion or desire. It was easy to blame my husband's indifference for my restlessness, but I knew deep down that I had allowed it to fester. The antique shop echoed in my mind, the laughter shared over vintage finds, our hands brushing against each other as we reached for similar treasures. There was something about him that stirred emotions long buried beneath layers of routine. His youthful energy contrasted sharply with the stagnation I felt at home. Yet every moment spent with him only deepened my internal conflict. "Are you ready?" My husband's voice broke through my reverie as he entered the kitchen, his smile brightening his face. He looked so genuinely happy to see me, it tugged at something inside me, a reminder of what we once shared. "Yes," I replied softly, forcing a smile in return. "I have a surprise for dinner tonight," he announced cheerfully as he poured himself coffee. "I thought we could celebrate our anniversary early this year." My heart sank momentarily before forcing itself to beat steadily again. How could I enjoy a celebration when part of me was entangled in secrecy? "That sounds lovely," I managed to say without betraying any hint of turmoil. The day dragged on like molasses as I tried to focus on household chores while thoughts of him invaded every corner of my mind. What would happen after tonight? Would I continue this double life? Or would it all come crashing down like a house built on sand? Each hour felt like an eternity as guilt twisted inside me like a knife. As evening approached, anxiety bubbled beneath the surface while preparing for dinner, the table set meticulously with candles flickering softly against fine china that had remained untouched for too long. My husband's laughter echoed through the house as he hummed while cooking. It should have brought comfort but only heightened my sense of disconnection. "Dinner is almost ready," he called out cheerfully from the kitchen. I took a moment to breathe deeply before joining him. The aroma wafting through the air was inviting, yet all I could think about was how different tonight would feel compared to those stolen moments spent with him, the nephew who breathed life into parts of me long forgotten. "Wow! This looks amazing," I complimented genuinely as he placed food on our plates. "Just wanted to do something special," he replied with pride shining in his eyes. As we sat across from each other at the candlelit table, laughter flowed easily between us, yet an undercurrent of tension lingered just below the surface. My mind flickered back to last night's escapade, how carefree we had been together compared to this facade now playing out before me. "Do you remember our first anniversary?" he asked suddenly, breaking through my spiraling thoughts. "Yes," I said quietly, recalling how excited we had been then, full of dreams and hopes for our future together. We went to that little restaurant by the beach. Exactly. You wore that red dress. His voice trailed off as his gaze turned distant momentarily before returning back into focus on me again. I smiled weakly at him while feeling pangs of regret wash over me. How far removed from those moments we had become without realizing it until now. The evening continued with more stories shared over dinner, a bittersweet reminder of what once was mingling with what currently existed between us, both now feeling fragile yet somehow tethered together still despite everything else pulling apart underneath quietly. After dessert was finished and dishes cleared away, he pulled out a small box from his pocket, a glimmering promise nestled within velvet folds waiting patiently just for me alone. "I wanted you to have this," he said, gently opening it up, revealing an elegant necklace sparkling under soft light spilling out across table between us, illuminating everything within reach around us too. My breath caught in my throat as confusion washed over me. How could he give such a gift when shadows loomed large nearby, threatening everything around us? "It's beautiful," came out almost instinctively while feeling tears threaten at edges, wanting desperately breaking free now. He reached across, placing it gently around my neck, fastening clasp securely behind before stepping back, admiringly looking at me, intently searching deep into eyes, hoping maybe finding answers there somehow too. Suddenly an unexpected knock echoed through our home, disrupting intimate moments, sending shivers racing down spine, instantly bringing reality crashing back hard against fragile bubbles surrounding us both. Who could that be? My voice trembled slightly, unsure whether dread or relief filled chest instead now. He frowned slightly, glancing towards door then back again, meeting gaze, steadying himself before rising up, heading toward entrance, slowly feeling tension mount, thickening air surrounding everything here right now. As footsteps approached closer outside, echoing louder against wooden floorboards beneath feet, pounding rhythmically, matching frantic heartbeat racing faster still within chest too. What would happen next? Would this unexpected visitor unravel everything carefully constructed around us both, leaving nothing but chaos behind instead? My heart raced, not knowing what awaited beyond doorframe, waiting patiently just beyond threshold, marking line drawn between past, present, future, all colliding together, spinning wildly out control, threatening everything once secure held tight within grasp. The door creaked open, and I braced myself for the confrontation that loomed just beyond. My husband's familiar silhouette filled the doorway, his face lit by the soft glow of the hallway light. He stepped inside, his eyes searching mine for something unspoken, an acknowledgement of the tension that had been building between us. "Hey," he said, his voice even but laced with curiosity. "I didn't expect to find you here." "Just needed some time to think," I replied, my heart pounding as I tried to maintain composure. The weight of my secret life pressed heavily on my chest, making it difficult to breathe. He nodded slowly, a hint of concern flickering across his features. "I was just about to start dinner. Want to join me?" Dinner. The very word sent a wave of guilt crashing over me. Here he was, trying to create a moment for us while I was entangled in a web of deceit with his nephew. I hesitated, torn between the warmth of his offer and the cold reality of my actions. "Sure," I managed to say, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine warmth. As we moved into the kitchen, memories flooded back. Cooking together in this space had once been a source of joy. Now it felt like a reminder of everything I was jeopardizing. He busied himself with chopping vegetables while I stood at the counter, watching him with an unsettling mix of affection and regret. "Everything okay?" he asked suddenly, glancing up from his task. "You seem distant." I opened my mouth to respond but found no words that could convey the turmoil inside me without unraveling our lives entirely. Instead, I focused on the rhythm of his knife against the cutting board, the sound both comforting and maddeningly normal amidst my chaos. "I'm fine," I finally replied, forcing cheer into my tone. "Just tired from work." He nodded again but didn't press further. Instead, he continued preparing dinner as we exchanged small talk about mundane things, work schedules and upcoming family events, while dread gnawed at me from within. But then he paused mid-sentence. "You know," he began slowly, "I've been thinking about us lately." My heart skipped a beat at his words. They hung in the air like an impending storm cloud. "What do you mean?" "I feel like we've lost something," he said carefully. "The spark we used to have." His admission caught me off guard. Could it be that he sensed my discontent? Or perhaps he was simply reflecting on our routine. Either way, it struck deep within me, a reminder of what I craved yet had chosen to pursue elsewhere. "Life gets busy," I offered weakly, trying to deflect any deeper conversation. He sighed heavily and turned back to chopping vegetables with renewed intensity, as if trying to carve out answers instead of mere ingredients for dinner. "Maybe we should take some time for ourselves," he suggested after a moment's silence. "A weekend away or something." The suggestion sent ripples through my already turbulent thoughts. How could we rekindle what had long faded when part of me was currently entangled in an affair? The irony stung sharply as I considered that very weekend getaway, the one where I would rather be lost in another world entirely with someone else. "I'd love that," I said finally, hoping my voice sounded more enthusiastic than it felt. We finished preparing dinner in relative silence until the table was set and food plated, a semblance of normalcy restored amidst chaos brewing beneath our surface interactions. As we sat down together at our modest dining table adorned with simple flowers from our garden, remnants of happier times, I couldn't shake off how surreal this moment felt against everything else happening in my life. He reached across the table for my hand. Warmth enveloped us both as our fingers intertwined briefly before I withdrew mine instinctively, a reflex born from guilt rather than desire. "What's wrong?" His eyes searched mine again with concern etched across his face, his earnestness only deepening my internal conflict. "Nothing," I lied once more. Each denial felt like another thread pulling tighter around me until breathing became laborious under its weight. Dinner progressed uneasily. Laughter felt forced as conversation ebbed and flowed awkwardly between us like tides struggling against unseen currents beneath them. All too soon it came time for him to clear away dishes while I retreated inwardly, my thoughts drifting towards moments spent outside this home where joy mingled freely with danger wrapped tightly around youthful allure. An unexpected noise broke through my reverie. A loud crash echoed from behind us as one dish slipped through his fingers onto tiled floor, shattering into countless pieces scattering everywhere beneath our feet, a chaotic metaphor for everything unraveling in my life right now. "What just happened?" he exclaimed, startled by sudden chaos erupting unexpectedly in what should have been an ordinary evening together. "I'm sorry. Let me help you clean up." But inside turmoil raged even louder than broken glass, the cracks spreading wider, threatening all foundations built upon trust and familiarity between us both, now fraying dangerously at edges previously thought secure, held tight within grasp. As we knelt together picking up fragments scattered across floorboards, the weight bearing down heavier still, I couldn't help but wonder whether this moment signified more than just a simple accident. Was it fate or mere coincidence leading towards inevitable reckoning, waiting patiently beyond doorframe, marking line drawn between past, present, future, colliding together, spinning wildly out, control threatening everything once secure, held tight within grasp? In that instant realization hit hard. Perhaps this wasn't merely about broken dishes, it symbolized fractures forming within relationships built upon fragile foundations, long neglected, yearning desperately for repair. When dinner ended later that evening, we sat quietly side by side on couch watching television, but neither truly engaged nor present, instead lost somewhere deep within, thoughts swirling around choices made leading toward paths diverging drastically apart. Finally unable anymore, suppressed thoughts bubbling beneath surface, I turned toward him once more, breaking silence lingering heavy between us like fog refusing lift despite morning sun shining brightly outside, windows illuminating darkness surrounding, hearts hiding secrets far too painful reveal aloud. "I've been thinking," My voice faltered, slightly uncertain how best articulate. Feelings tangled tightly within, heart aching, desperately seek clarity amidst confusion surrounding everything, spiraling out control around us both. But before words could fully escape lips, the phone rang unexpectedly, breaking tension, hanging thick air, sending jolts through both bodies, instinctively reaching toward device resting nearby, vibrating, incessantly demanding attention, pulling focus away. Moments shared together. His eyes darted toward screen, revealing name flashing brightly there. My heart sank further, knowing who awaited on other end line, desperate, seeking connection, unaware, chaos brewing underneath surface facade maintained so carefully until now. The emotional toll living double life began weigh heavily upon shoulders previously strong yet weary from burden carried alone far too long without relief sought anywhere nearby. What would happen next? Would this unexpected visitor unravel everything carefully constructed around us both, leaving nothing but chaos behind instead? The emotional toll of living a double life began to weigh heavily upon my shoulders, previously strong yet weary from a burden carried alone far too long without relief sought anywhere nearby. I stood in my kitchen, the scent of garlic and rosemary wafting through the air, as I prepared for the romantic dinner my husband had planned. The table was set beautifully, candles flickering softly, casting shadows that danced against the walls. Yet, the warmth of the moment felt hollow, overshadowed by thoughts of my nephew and our secret encounters. As I stirred the sauce simmering on the stove, memories of his laughter echoed in my mind. Our time spent together at that antique shop flooded back, how we had laughed over old trinkets and shared stories that seemed to bridge the gap between our ages. The thrill of those stolen moments lingered like a sweet perfume, intoxicating yet dangerous. "Are you all right?" My husband's voice broke through my reverie as he entered the kitchen, his brow furrowed with concern. He was dressed in a nice shirt, an effort to make tonight special. "Yes, just thinking," I replied with a practiced smile, attempting to mask the turmoil inside me. "Thinking about what?" he pressed gently. "About how quickly time passes," I said, stirring the sauce more vigorously than necessary. "And how we should cherish these moments together." He nodded appreciatively but didn't seem convinced. I could see he wanted to connect with me, but my heart was elsewhere, pulled towards another life that felt more vibrant and alive. The evening progressed with laughter and clinking glasses as we toasted to our years together. Yet beneath it all lay an undercurrent of tension, a part of me yearning for something beyond this facade of marital bliss. As he leaned in to kiss me goodnight after dinner, I felt an unsettling mix of guilt and longing wash over me. A few days later brought St. Augustine's annual festival, a lively celebration filled with music and vibrant colors that contrasted starkly with my internal struggle. The streets were alive with laughter and joy. Couples strolled hand in hand while children darted about with cotton candy in hand. It was a scene painted with happiness that felt foreign to me. I wandered through stalls filled with handmade crafts and local delicacies when suddenly I spotted a familiar face from my past, a friend from college who had once known me well before life became so predictable. We exchanged pleasantries before she asked pointedly about my life. "Are you happy?" she inquired, her gaze piercing through any pretense I tried to uphold. "Of course," I replied automatically, but doubt crept into my voice. She raised an eyebrow knowingly but didn't press further. Instead, we chatted about old times, memories wrapped in nostalgia, but her question lingered like an unwelcome guest at a party. As I turned away from her familiar face, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from him. "Can we meet tonight?" A thrill surged through me at his words. It was both exhilarating and terrifying to think of slipping away into our hidden world once again. That evening found me standing outside the motel where we had shared so many clandestine moments, a place that felt more like a sanctuary than a hideout. As I entered the room where he awaited me, excitement coursed through my veins alongside trepidation about what this meeting would entail. "I missed you," he said simply as he pulled me into an embrace that felt both comforting and electrifying all at once. Our conversations flowed easily, we talked about everything, our hopes for the future and dreams unfulfilled, and yet there remained an unspoken tension simmering beneath our words. But then came his question, what are we doing? Where is this going? I hesitated. Uncertainty loomed large over us like dark clouds threatening rain after a long drought. I don't know, I admitted quietly, feeling exposed under his gaze. His expression shifted slightly. Was it disappointment? Or perhaps fear? I just want to understand what this means for us. Before I could respond thoughtfully, there was a knock at the door, a loud rap that shattered our fragile bubble of intimacy. My heart raced as panic set in. Who could it be? My mind raced back to my husband's earlier words about trust and loyalty. How could I reconcile those values with what lay before me? He looked at me wide-eyed. Should you answer it? No. My voice came out sharper than intended as dread filled every corner of my mind. We can't let anyone see, he trailed off nervously as another knock echoed through the room. Stay quiet, I whispered urgently as I moved toward the door cautiously. Peering through the peephole revealed nothing but darkness on the other side, no familiar faces or comforting sounds, only silence filled with heavy anticipation hung thickly around us both. Then suddenly it hit me, what if it was someone who knew? What if they had come seeking answers or bringing chaos into our carefully constructed lives? My heart pounded louder than ever as thoughts spiraled out of control. The implications felt almost unbearable. Who is it? He asked nervously behind me while shifting uneasily on his feet. I don't know, I confessed softly. Dread clawed at my insides like an unwanted intruder threatening everything we'd built together, even if only briefly lived within stolen moments away from prying eyes outside those four walls surrounding us now. With each passing second filled only by uncertainty looming larger than before, it became clear. Something had changed irreparably between us that night beneath those flickering motel lights. The tension in the air was palpable, a thick fog of uncertainty that settled heavily around us. I could see the flickering light of the motel sign reflecting off his eyes, casting shadows that danced across his face. The thrill of our secret had always been intoxicating, but now it felt more like a noose tightening around my neck. I can't keep doing this, I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. He shifted slightly, the weight of my words hanging between us like a storm cloud ready to burst. Why? He asked, confusion etched into his features. What's changed? Everything had changed, and yet nothing had. My heart raced as I thought about my husband waiting for me at home, blissfully unaware of the turmoil brewing within me. I had spent so long chasing fleeting moments of excitement that I had lost sight of the reality waiting for me in those four walls. I don't know, I replied, feeling the words slip through my fingers like sand. The truth was buried beneath layers of guilt and desire, and I wasn't sure how to dig it out. I need to figure things out. He looked at me with an intensity that made my stomach churn. You're not going to just walk away from this, are you? His voice was steady but laced with desperation. I don't want to hurt you, I said, though part of me worried that it was already too late for that. The truth was that every moment spent with him felt like a betrayal to my husband, a man who had given me stability and comfort over the years. As if sensing my internal struggle, he reached out and took my hand in his. His touch sent shivers up my spine. It reminded me of everything we shared, the laughter, the stolen glances across crowded rooms, the way we connected over dusty antiques in that shop where it all began. But then reality crashed back in like a wave against jagged rocks. My husband's planned romantic dinner loomed large in my mind. He had gone out of his way to make it special for us both. How could I face him knowing what I'd done? I need time, I finally said, pulling away from him gently as if breaking a spell. Time? Or space, he countered sharply. Because those are two different things. His words hung heavy in the air as if they were an accusation rather than a question. It dawned on me then that perhaps he wasn't just an innocent bystander in this affair. Perhaps he wanted more than just clandestine meetings and whispered secrets. "I don't know what you want from me," I replied defensively, trying to mask my own confusion with bravado. "Maybe what you want isn't so clear either," he shot back, frustration creeping into his tone. I felt the walls closing in around us. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Our connection had started with laughter and shared interests but now felt like a tangled web threatening to ensnare us both. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught my eye outside the window. Headlights swept across our secluded haven before disappearing down the road. My heart raced anew as panic set in. What if someone saw us? What if someone knew? "Maybe we should end this," I suggested hastily, though every fiber of my being screamed against it. "Is that really what you want?" he asked softly but firmly. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I stared at our reflections in the glass, the two of us caught between worlds we couldn't fully inhabit together without consequences looming large above our heads. "We can find a way," he insisted gently but with conviction. But could we? The thought sparked an ember of hope within me even as doubt threatened to extinguish it entirely. As much as I craved connection and attention, was this truly worth risking everything? "I have to go," I said abruptly, standing up and grabbing my purse off the table where it lay forgotten amidst our heated exchange. "Wait." He reached for me again but stopped short when he saw the look on my face, my resolve hardening like steel beneath layers of uncertainty. I stepped outside into the cool night air which felt refreshing against my flushed skin but did little to ease the turmoil within me. Each step toward my car felt heavier than the last until finally reaching its door became an insurmountable challenge. Just as I started the engine and pulled away from our secret hideaway, his face etched into memory, I caught sight of another vehicle parked nearby, one belonging unmistakably to my husband's best friend who lived just down the street from us. My heart sank as dread washed over me anew. Could they have seen? Were they here because they suspected something? The drive home felt torturous. Every turn seemed fraught with danger as paranoia gnawed at me relentlessly until finally arriving back at our house, the place where normalcy awaited behind closed doors while chaos brewed just beneath its surface. As soon as I stepped inside, familiar scents enveloped me. Freshly cooked pasta wafting through from the kitchen combined with candles flickering softly on our dining table set for two, a romantic gesture meant only for me, and yet now tinged with guilt sharper than any knife lying there amongst plates adorned with flowers picked fresh earlier today. "Honey, you're home." My husband called out cheerfully from somewhere beyond sight, his voice pulling me back toward reality even though part of me longed for escape once more. I took a deep breath before stepping further inside. Every instinct told me something was off tonight, a sense tinged with anticipation mingled alongside anxiety threatening to spill over any moment now. When he appeared moments later smiling brightly despite all else weighing heavily on both our hearts, I forced myself to return his grin even though inside turmoil raged fiercely still. "Dinner's ready. Hope you're hungry." He beamed proudly while gesturing toward our carefully arranged table filled with love, and yet shadowed by secrets unspoken. And there stood two lives colliding within this space, one filled with warmth and affection while another simmered beneath layers unseen. In that moment before sitting down together, I understood one thing clearly: choices led here would determine everything moving forward, and whatever lay ahead would require facing truths long hidden beneath layers built carefully over years spent together. The evening light filtered through the window, casting shadows that danced across the dining table set for two. My husband had gone to great lengths to create a romantic atmosphere, candles flickered, and a bottle of wine chilled nearby. He hummed softly as he prepared the meal, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within me. I sat there, caught in a web of conflicting emotions, my heart racing as I thought of what lay ahead. I had spent the day wrestling with my thoughts, torn between loyalty and desire. The memory of my nephew's laughter echoed in my mind, a stark contrast to the quiet comfort of my home. He had a way of making everything seem vibrant and alive. Yet here I was, faced with the man who had shared years of my life, the one who had stood by me through thick and thin. "Are you ready for dinner?" he called out cheerfully from the kitchen. "Yes," I replied, forcing a smile. The words felt heavy on my tongue as if they were laced with deceit. As we settled down to eat, I couldn't shake off the weight of impending confrontation. The air was thick with unspoken truths. My husband began recounting stories from his day, but I found myself drifting away, lost in thought about how to address both him and my nephew. "Is everything okay?" he asked suddenly, his brow furrowing with concern. "Yes," I lied again, though I could feel the tension coiling tighter around me. "Just thinking." "About what?" His gaze bore into me, searching for answers hidden beneath layers I had built over time. I hesitated before speaking. "About us, about our lives." His face softened at my words as if he sensed an opening, a chance to reconnect. "I've been thinking about that too," he admitted quietly. "We should take more time for each other." A pang of guilt washed over me, his sincerity cut deeper than any knife could. But alongside it came clarity, a moment of understanding that no amount of love or devotion could erase the yearning that had taken root within me. "I appreciate that," I said slowly, carefully weighing each word. "But there are things we need to discuss." "What do you mean?" His eyes narrowed slightly in confusion. Before I could respond, images flooded back, my nephew's smile, our shared moments in antique shops filled with history and nostalgia. A part of me longed to escape into those memories where passion thrived without consequence. "I think we need to be honest with each other about what we want," I finally said, feeling the truth hang heavy between us. His expression shifted, something flickered behind his eyes. Was it fear? Anger? "What are you saying?" "I don't know how to explain it," I stammered, feeling exposed under his scrutiny. "There have been distractions." "Distractions?" He leaned forward slightly, his voice dropped an octave as if bracing for impact. "Someone else has come into my life," I confessed at last, each word tasting bitter on my tongue. The silence that followed was deafening, it enveloped us like a thick fog rolling in from the sea. His face paled as realization dawned upon him. He understood what I meant without needing further explanation. "Who?" he asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's your nephew." The admission hung in the air like an uninvited guest. He recoiled slightly at my words as if struck by an unseen force. "How could you? How long has this been going on?" "Long enough for me to realize what's missing between us," I replied softly but firmly. "I crave something more than routine." His expression morphed from shock into something darker, hurt mingled with betrayal clouding his features. "And you think this is love? A fling?" "It's not just a fling." My voice rose involuntarily before settling again into a tense calmness. "It's more complicated than that." He pushed back from the table abruptly, chair legs screeched against wood as he stood up and paced across the room like a caged animal searching for freedom amidst confinement. "You've destroyed everything," he shouted finally, anguish spilling forth like water breaking through a dam. "No. It wasn't meant to be like this." Desperation clawed at me as tears threatened to spill over. I hadn't intended for it all to unravel so publicly or painfully. He turned away from me then, shoulders slumped under the weight of betrayal while mine felt heavier still beneath layers of guilt and desire intertwined like vines choking out light from within myself. "I thought we were happy," he murmured almost inaudibly after what felt like an eternity spent staring into space between us, a chasm widened by secrets now laid bare before him. "We were, but happiness can sometimes mask deeper issues." My voice trembled slightly now. Uncertainty seeped through every word spoken aloud, a plea wrapped in hope yet tinged with despair all at once. "What do you want?" His question cut through silence once again but lacked any semblance of softness. It felt accusatory instead, a challenge thrown down upon fragile ground already cracked beneath our feet. I want clarity. The urgency surged forth unbidden, the need for truth igniting flames inside me anew, yet clarity remained elusive amidst swirling chaos surrounding both men whose lives intertwined so intimately with mine now laid bare before one another. Suddenly there came another knock on our door, a sound so mundane yet filled with potential consequences beyond comprehension. It echoed through our hearts like thunder rumbling overhead heralding storms yet unseen. My husband glanced toward the door while uncertainty clouded his features further still, perhaps expecting someone unexpected, or perhaps hoping against hope it would be just another distraction from reality crashing down around us both. With shaking hands clenching tightly against fabric covering knees pressed firmly together, I held my breath waiting, for fate itself seemed poised on edge ready either plunge forward into unknown depths or retreat back into familiar shadows where nothing mattered anymore except comfort found within walls built long ago. As footsteps approached, the door creaked open slowly revealing not only light pouring forth but also possibility wrapped tightly around every heartbeat echoing loudly through space between us. The future hung suspended delicately waiting upon choices made within mere moments ahead. And then came voices rising above silence filling voids left behind by unspoken truths lingering still heavy upon hearts yearning desperately seeking resolution, or perhaps simply escape from tangled webs spun intricately around desires long hidden away.